Thanks, Mike. All right, well, Scott and I are here with KTI. Containment Technologies is, essentially what we are is we're an advocate for municipal utilities, for utilities in general. We try and serve a role to assist them with the planning and implementation of technologies. And our goal is really to minimize risk and increase the benefit and value they receive from that technology over time. And so we've been doing this for quite some time. And we do it with utilities of all public power. We do work with co-ops and we do work with municipals, but always public power. The utilities range anywhere from work as small as 2,000 meters, a utility to a couple 100,000. And we work through joint action agencies or we work directly with utilities. Generally, is right for that utility. We try and do it. So this list or this map up here is showing the direct customers. We don't have all of the small municipals that are associated with some of those throughout the service areas, but we try to work directly and as closely as we can to utilities. We've got a lot of experience in our team, on our staff, and we try and get in bed with them, so to speak, and help them through these implementations and the plans that they do. What we do can be broken up into probably 4 categories. For some utilities, this is typically the larger ones or the joint action agencies. We involve the strategic technology planning and develop the overall roadmaps and timelines for what they're doing and what their costs are going to be and where should they be. And when we do this, it's frequently because, frankly, the utilities are sitting here with our whole CIS system and get something new. We've also got a problem with GIS. We haven't got that nailed. Our AMI systems are drive-by. Which one's first? Where do we go? What's the timing? How do we do it? Or we talked earlier about SCADA situations. I want to go and replace my SCADA, but I don't want to just put in a cookie cutter to the last. I'm going to go with ADMS, Advanced Distribution Management System. And how do I do that? And what do I do? So we help with the technology strategic vision that they were going to use and try and support that through our understanding of the industry. All of our people are coming either from utilities or work with utilities for a long time. That's one of our cases. The other ones we actually get involved with specific implementations. So and we'll talk about this in a couple of slides here. A lot of utilities are on 2nd generation AMI, advanced metering infrastructure, and or this ADMS activity, or DERMS, distributed energy resource planning. And so we'll help them implement those systems. And our claim to fame is we get heavily involved with the practical side. And so we'll work on what do you do and how do we minimize risk? How do we maximize that value? And how do we both test it, get the contracts in place? And so we work heavily with getting the vendor, the acquisition of these things. We have our team has people that are both working utilities, but also part of the vendor community. So we've got a lot of good sense about the contracts, the benefits, and the values that the vendor has on these activities, but also on what the utility needs to achieve. So our technology acquisition is really one of the better ones in the industry. We've saved our members, our customers, a lot of money over time through various risk mitigation techniques. Fairly simple legal things, quite honestly, but just practical, and we know what the things to look out for are out there. So that's what we've been very active. We also support, the third leg is the implementation when needed. We'll get involved with helping the utilities implement, and we do it through both understanding the process change, because these technologies that we're talking about are heavily involved with the people. And so we work closely with the utility on not only what is this technology we're implementing, but what do the people need to do? How are we going to manage the people? And then how are we going to manage the workflows that they have? And so that's our third leg, is that workflow, process design, and again, keeping in theme of risk mitigation, keeping that risk piece as low as possible for the utilities. And then the final leg is just a lot of little miscellaneous thing that fits inside this casual consulting arena, where later on we'll get called in by our clients because they've got contractual issues later, long after the fact, or because they've got people issues. And by having our relationship, what we've worked with is both the hometown connections and the partners and affiliates here, but also with the NRACA. We've got a lot of good experience in benchmarking and in understanding what are other people doing, how well is it being adapted. And so we talk about AI and data analytics and a lot of the things that are really exciting out there, but a lot of our clients, they're way in the backseat trying to get to this point. And so we'll try and help them understand how they might grow and get into it in this casual consulting. So that's a big piece of what. Yes, sir.
So I told Greg I wasn't going to get up here to do this today. You do it.
You can put the line.
Yeah. So, but what I will say is having worked for many years, Greg and I've known each other for 10 years, but I was most of the vendor side. I led the U.S. sales team for Honeywell, Smart Energy for AMI systems, linear metering, things like that. And we did a lot of projects where the customer had engaged Katama as the consultant. And I'll tell you what, some stuff that we do, I still don't think that way. It makes life easier for the customers and a pain in the neck for the vendors. As I recall, are things like the contract structure and the way wording is on some of these elements. I mean, Honeywell did not like doing contracts that weren't favorable to any costs. We're not. They sit there during the negotiation. I was out right next to him, several times, a couple of negotiations for weeks, and ended up being, so, but it's real, right? And it is to the benefit of the customer. This right here is system acceptance test verification. I've had millions of dollars of revenue recognition hung up behind this because that's the way the contract element worked. And until you get past it, you can't recognize the revenue. The cash flow and all that is, but the reality is that you can't recognize the revenue until we get past it. And I've walked the halls, holler and say, we got to do that because that's what we needed to do to make it right for the customer, right? So applying these kind of templates and tools, it's great to be on that side of it. It's weird for me, it feels weird. It still feels weird, but it's getting better. And then the things we do over here where it's miscellaneous stuff because this isn't happening or whatever, there's a lot more to that than these bullets really do justice. That's why I'm not resonating with you on this today.
And so I'll just step through a little bit of an example in a second. The technologies, and I've already mentioned some of these that we get involved with, are typically operation technologies, AMI, ADMS, demand response, DERMS, etc. We also get heavily involved. We've been active with Sprite, or the enterprise solutions and activities in the utility environment. And then, of course, the third bullet is the technology planning, which we've talked about. When we do this technology planning, what we're trying to do with the utility is to first start with the strategic plan. What is their overriding goal and strategic plan for the next 5 years or so? And then we try and make sure that the technology plan will support that. So that's an overarching direction. So that's a critical piece of what we do. We'll work with the utility to identify the needs and gaps that they have in their solution, in their people, in their processes, and so forth. And so we'll always be studying that piece of it as well. And then we tend to create a roadmap with the technology priorities that they have. And finally, we try and work with the utilities to set up an ongoing governance strategy so that they can self-manage this and keep it in place and keep that flow moving. So that's a typical technology plan. And when we do that, then we break that into categories for each utility. And this is a real specific situation where the categories this utility had were a transition to the modernized grid. They wanted to better utilize the technologies they had already put in place. They weren't doing well with those yet. They wanted to increase their data analytics and AI activities, and then finally get that culture modified. And so these are the kind of activities we would create for a utility in these categories. And I'll talk a little bit about this later, next gen AMI as we go forward. A lot of utilities, especially on the water side, are working now to go through their second and even third generation metering activities. And our team has got a long history in AMI activities. And so we work closely with the utilities to understand what is it you're trying to do with that? How does that blend in with your operation with your infrastructure? How does that blend in with your other systems that you, so we bring that together to put that in place. And if any of your utilities are looking at this second generation, third generation AMI, this is our bread and butter, the little thing we've been doing as long as anybody out there. We have a very formalized plan for how we do these kind of activities, assessing the financial piece of it, assessing the overall business case for the project, what's going to need to be put in place, defining those technology requirements that they have, and always a cross-functional, broad-based approach at each utility for making sure that we get the functions that are needed for that system for the entire company, not just for the engineers, not just for the billing people, but for the entire company. And we are involved, of course, enough to understand how these can play with the other systems. And so these are the steps that we take with each of these utilities, and we do it very frequently, and we've saved people a lot of money in the way we do it. So trying to get into closing, the things that we do, we've got a lot of experience in the co-op, with the municipals. We have people in place. We work closely in a very top to bottom approach. We work with the executives. We also know what the linemen, the meter readers, the people in the trenches are doing, the customer service people. And we have a strong capability of developing that plan for them, for any of these technologies. And we're very excited to be able to offer it to any of the team. We've got a core team here. A lot of you might know Pat Corrigan, some of the older, more seasoned people, but we've got a good, strong core team of people that understand our business, and we really do want to help the municipals and be their advocate as we move forward. So that's all I've got to say. Any questions?
This has been a production of Hometown Connections.